When I was my baby sister's age, 14 years old this year, I didn't have many worries. And it's funny because my baby sister, the Nayi, she's an American citizen, so it should be easier for her. But it's not. It's not right now because the people she loves most in this whole entire world, my mom, our other sister Beba, and I, we're all undocumented. And when we're threatened, she's threatened. So my baby sister was forced to bear the burden of attacks on immigrants under the Trump administration. I remember election night 2016. My mom and I were in complete shock, trying to absorb what had just happened to the country, trying to strategize about how to handle certain possibilities. I remember frantically Googling, what happens to a U.S. citizen child if an undocumented parent is deported? My dad died young, so I needed to assure myself that if my mom were deported, I could get custody of the Nai, who at the time was only 8. But then, of course, what would happen if both Beba and I were deported? My mom and I totally lost track of time during our election night panic. So when hours later I came downstairs, I was surprised to find my baby sister, the Nai, wide awake, sitting in a corner by herself, crying, red-faced with puffy eyes. With my dad gone, I've always had to be the big brother, or rather father figure, since our mom was always working. I helped Danae with her homework. We read each other bedtime stories. We play games. I try to answer those unanswerable kinds of kid questions and comfort her when she's scared. But I wasn't used to trying to comfort her when, in reality, I needed so much comforting myself. I remember tilting her chin, glistening with streams of tears toward me, looking into those deep brown eyes, and trying my best to give her soothing answers to difficult questions. Just repeating, "Don't cry. Baby, don't cry. It's gonna be okay, I promise. It's gonna be okay." Listen, why would you be deported? Do you even know what that word means? You shouldn't have to. But listen to me. You are an American citizen. You will never be deported. And you're right. I'm not a citizen, but I've got DACA. They can't deport me. And I know Mom is not a citizen and she doesn't have DACA, but she's going to be okay. She's lived here for decades. She's not going anywhere. Baby, don't cry. Please. I promise. Whatever happens, we'll be together. Always. I'll be there to put Band-Aids on your scraped knees. I'll be there for you to help you with your school projects. Yes, we're going to finish reading Harry Potter together. And I'll be by your side when you need help applying for college. I'll be there for you when you fall in love for your first time, when your heart is broken. And I'll walk you down the aisle one day. And it really doesn't matter where, as long as we're together. And yes, of course the puppy's coming with us if we go. Lulu's part of this family too, I'll have you know. Yeah, that's a dimply smile I like to see. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. At least, that's what I told her. I did my best to offer her what I wanted to hear, what I wanted to believe, both for her and our entire family. Because how do you talk to a child about being taken away from their parent or siblings without terrorizing them, without stripping them of their innocence? And with each day of the Trump administration, the increased deportations of parents like my mom, the attempts to end the DACA program that protects me and my sister Beba, the willingness to end rules that limit how long children can be detained, and even threats to strip children like the Nai of their citizenship. With all these mounting threats, it felt increasingly cruel for me to offer my baby sister a fairy tale, when in reality, she needed great strength to overcome great threats. So today, I offer her and you another story, And this story won't kiss it and make it all better, but I'm hoping it'll help us stay strong, regardless of any challenges that we might face. I was 3 years old, and my sister Beba was just 1 when we crossed the border with our mom. We walked together with a group of 10, 15 people. We walked for hours and hours at night in the middle of the desert. I remember we were out in the middle of nowhere, following a dim silver light. I imagined we followed it because it meant we were going the right way, some shining city in the distance. We finally got to a raised road lined with street lamps, and to avoid walking over the street and potentially being seen, we crossed through a drainage tunnel under the road. Mom had me walk through the tunnel in front of her, and she crawled behind with my sister in her shawl. And Beba and I, we were wearing those little kid slide-up shoes everybody was going crazy over that year. Mom had saved up a lot of money to buy them because we were going to be seeing our dad after a year of him being in the U.S. on his own, and she wanted us to look our best. And those shoes, they were actually super helpful in that drainage tunnel, helping to light the way for Mom and all the other people crawling through on their hands and knees. But of course, the dead of night, in the middle of the desert, they were a dead giveaway. When we were finally able to see the moonlight at the end of the tunnel and catch a whiff of fresh air, the coyotes urgently requested that my mom take off my shoes. "There's a Border Patrol car parked outside," he whispered. The drainage tunnel emptied out right next to a gas station where the Border Patrol car was parked. The officers were inside, we assumed, so we waited for a while, hoping they'd return to their car and drive away. But nobody was coming out, and for some reason, the coyotes grew impatient and abruptly told everybody to move. And in the chaos, everybody immediately scrambled, crawling behind tall grass on their hands and knees as their coyotes gave us voiceless commands with their fingers on their lips and pointing to the ground. But the ground was covered in massive cactus thorns, and I didn't have any shoes. While everyone crawled, my mom stood up, carrying both Beba and me in her arms, and she just started walking. And at first, I thought she was giving up because we would surely be seen. I mean, everybody else was still crawling on the ground. But she stood up tall and walked with a defiant pep in her step, as if she belonged right there where she stood. And that's when I realized she hadn't given up. She just had faith that walking quickly and quietly was her best strategy to protect us. She was resolved that somehow, somewhere, we would find a place to call home, somewhere we could thrive. And I have never forgotten the look on my mom's face as she walked out into the darkness of an unknown country. That is when I first learned that the real meaning of courage is not to pretend to be immune from fear, but rather to calmly and steadily take action in spite of it. Our former president and his followers, they might try to caricature my little 3-year-old self as a diseased, toddler, criminal, murderer, rapist, gang member in the making. They might try to scare people who don't know any undocumented immigrants into thinking that my mother carrying her children to safety is nothing less than an invasion. But Beba and I, we grew up beloved by our friends, our neighbors. We grew up to be strong members of our communities. We both went to college, and I even became student body president of my university. I'm not part of some invading army fighting against America, but like many of you, I'm fighting for the American ideals I know we can live up to. They may want to take away my baby sister's right to citizenship, but I remain hopeful that maybe the Nai or some other young woman listening to my story might be our future president and lead us to a future where we actually live up to those ideals to truly have liberty and justice for all. But that reality is going to take a lot of hard work, and not just on my part or on the part of the immigrant community, but hard work on your part too. Every single one of you. As Anne Frank once wrote in her famous diary, how wonderful it is no one need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world.